What's your most embarrassing I thought I was alone moment? I unexpectedly started my period in the middle of a long meeting where I had to get out of my seat multiple times. I know women will get why that's a nightmare. Anyway, after that meeting, I ran to the bathroom and I thought it was empty. Once in the stall, I looked down and it was a complete horrific mess. Blood everywhere. I sadly said to myself, "No, uterus, we're supposed to be in this together. Why?" Suddenly I heard a woman say, "Girl, I feel you." I was mad embarrassed. Story 2. I went to the bathroom in a train station. It was pretty empty, and I just needed to pee. I got in one of the stalls and did what needed to be done when I felt a fart coming. So, I let it out. It was loud and long and midway farting. The lady in the stall next to me started laughing hysterically. I finished, went to wash my hands and leave so she won't see me, and she was still laughing. Could hear her from the hallway after exiting the toilet. Commenter. I was at Walmart with my sister, and we had to use the restroom. I walked in and saw a lady shuffle into a stall. My sister must have followed after she closed the door and had not seen her, because I was quietly tinkling and the lady next to me started blowing it up. I mean a fart symphony. My sister busted out laughing, screaming, "OMG, my name, stop! Laughing, stop, that's so gross!" She thought it was me. I just sat mortified as my sister kept on going. When I was done, I whispered to her that it wasn't me and it was someone else, and my sister was so embarrassed. Story 3. I talk to myself when I'm alone. All the time. Anywhere I happen to be alone. This includes when I'm working. So one time I'm stocking candy at work and I just bust out singing, "Yo, light up my e-leaf." And I turn around and there's this poor customer looking at me trying not to laugh. I felt myself turn bright red, but I laughed awkwardly and said, "Sorry." He says, "Nah, it's all right. I do it too." Story 4. I volunteered at an animal shelter in my early 20s. I was the first one to arrive in the morning because I went there before my classes started, besides the office people, and cleaned the dog kennels. When I was done, I would sit with one of the dogs, Bella, that spent most of her life there, and, well, talk to her 5 times a week for months. One day, I went into her kennel and greeted her when I heard some from the supply room saying, "Bella wants you to know that you will be fine without that, and you should know your worth." I was shocked, and in my head, I immediately went through a lot of messed up things I told that poor dog, and apparently also the Carl, 70, the cat guy. Commenter. I was too embarrassed to engage with him after that, but I wish he knew that I took his advice and freed myself from said shortly after. Thanks, Carl. Hope you're still happily napping with the cats. Story 5. Oh, I got one. My husband and daughter have been sleeping on the couch for a few months because my kiddo has nightmares. And that's the current arrangement that works for everyone, as I am a super light sleeper. Our bedroom is at the top of the stairs on the second floor, and the couch is near the bottom of the stairs. For a few weeks, I was having some stomach issues and was waking up super gassy. Thankfully, I was sleeping alone with the door closed, so I'd wake up and let it rip to get all the gas out of my system before going downstairs. I came downstairs one morning after really having given it some gusto, and my husband and daughter were convulsing with laughter. I asked what they were laughing at, and my husband said, "I have to ask, do you take your earplugs out before or after you fart your brains out in the morning?" Turns out the door being closed didn't muffle a damn thing. My earplugs gave me a false sense of security. Story 6. My husband, black, and I, white, moved in with his parents for a few months to help us get back on our feet. I'm very blessed to have amazing in-laws. I thought I was home alone one day and decided to do a charcoal peel-off mask before my shower, so I put it on and opened the bathroom door. My Phil was walking by in the hallway right outside the door and kind of stopped and stared at me. I don't think he knew what I had on my face, and I basically looked like I was in blackface. Neither one of us said anything or mentioned it ever again. Story 7. I used to be a park ranger, and I had gone out to check on a park early one morning, and someone had damaged a wooden post to the point it needed to come down. I went back to the shop, grabbed an axe, come back, and merrily started smashing this thing to the ground before I realized it was too quiet. Looked up to the pavilion, and there were 2 teenagers having a really romantic little picnic, like little tablecloth, flowers, and everything, watching me in horror as I just rolled up and had started axing a wooden pole to the ground. My truck was unmarked, and I was just wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Story 8. I've mentioned it before, but when I was in year 5, I was waiting for some food in the microwave to heat up, and beside me were some chicken thighs my mom left out to defrost the night before. I started getting freaky with the thighs and groping them and making moaning sounds while gyrating my hips. My mom walked in and asked what I was doing. God, I cringe just thinking about it now. I wonder if she remembers. Story 9. My boyfriend and I weren't farting in front of each other yet, so after he went upstairs, I was ready to unleash a gas cloud. I bent over to feed the dogs, and this monstrosity was ready. I ripped it. It was so loud and so long, then I feel like maybe I'm not alone. I turn around and my boyfriend is standing directly behind me with a look of absolute shock on his face. I guess he hadn't gone upstairs. Story 10. A couple hours into the day, my junk started itching. like right next to the base of my dong. Stressful job, didn't really think about it, just kept itching it. I stopped at a gas station before dropping my crew off, got the key to the bathroom to check. I had a tick hella burrowed into my pube area. I'm a skinny guy, but for whatever reason it was kind of hard to see, so I stood in front of the sink to use the mirror so I could do the lightly twirl it around until it lets go thing. Someone knocks. I ignore it because I'm at 110% concentration. Ticker unlocks and abruptly opens. I made eye contact with the guy. He profusely apologized like 7 times in 4 seconds. I realized he probably thought I was getting off in the sink. I finally got the tick off. Guy was waiting outside the door and quickly apologized like 5 more times. I interrupted to tell him what happened. I'm positive he didn't believe me. A few months later, I asked for the bathroom key again. I knocked, then unlocked the door. There was a woman in there. She screamed, because it happened twice. To me, at a gas station I don't regularly use. I can only assume the workers think it's funny and do it on purpose. And like, it kinda is, but what the duck, yo? There's some guy out there that thinks I get off into gas station bathroom sinks and has probably told the story like 50 times. Thank God it wasn't a kid that opened the door. Story 11, not as bad as most of these, but I thought I was alone. So I was cooking and whistling the whistle song from animated Robin Hood. I'm not a very good whistler, but whatever. Not so bad so far. I do this thing, though, where I like to combine 2 different songs into one. For whistling, it's the whistle song and the hamster dance. I've now also turned all the lights onto bright, so I can also chase my dog around. The lights aren't usually all off, but I didn't really register it. There I am, whistling my ass off, sounding off-key and terrible, dancing around shaking my butt all over the kitchen and living room, when I noticed my husband napping on the couch. Or trying to, at least. He had his hands covering his ears, a throw cushion over his face. He had been there since I got home from work. Of course he thought I knew he was there. I just didn't see him in his dark clothes on our dark couch. He got to observe and listen to me talk to my dog, myself, God knows what I said, and do an original booty-shaking hamster dance medley. He thought I did all that knowing he was trying to nap. When I saw him, I froze. Then I slowly tiptoed out of the living room, shut all the lights back off, and ran away. Ugh. Story 12. I truly believe being able to run on all 4s could be a hella useful skill. Like, it's a good workout, but if read somewhere that the easiest way to scare someone away is by acting crazy, unsettling. Imagine you have a burglar in your house and you can charge them, screaming bloody murder, on all 4s. Anyway, running on all 4s takes practice, and even as a kid, I had a semblance of pride and self-respect, which gave me little room to harvest the skill as there was always someone around. However, after my flute classes, I would always have to wait a little until my mom came to pick me up, which gave me some time by myself in the hallways of the music school. As I was the last student, I had the whole building for myself after my teacher left, for at least 1 hour before the janitor came to lock all the doors. Time I could practice my dog run in the hallway. I did this for a few weeks until a girl from flute class forgot her sheet music and returned to the academy to pick it up, catching me running on all 4s, or at least trying to, in a dark hallway, I might add. We both screamed. I cried. She was from the popular clique from my high school, so I'm surprised she never used that story to bully me. But my guess is that she told her friends and they didn't believe her Lomao. Story 13. My parents hired someone to fix the master bathroom, my bathroom. Not knowing this, I put my headphones in and started practicing my dance routines for school. Some of the moves were really crazy. I finished my first routine and the guy was standing at my door just laughing. I was pretty embarrassed. Story 14. I was in the woods on a very desolate trail. I almost never see anyone else there. And I was looking at my options for college admissions on my phone while taking a break at an overlook and loudly talking to myself about niche classes I wanted to take that are only in the master's program, and what I wanted to write about for my admissions essay. And suddenly there's another lady on the trail. I jumped and then said, "Hi," and then realized she probably heard me talking to myself. I got into college, though. Story 15. I was dog sitting for my grandfather while he and his wife were on a several-week-long cruise. He was pretty wealthy, and his house was a lovely place on the Gulf Coast of Florida, with a full bar and a pool and anything you could want. And I was 22 and really living it up there. Anyway, I came out of the shower one afternoon wrapped up in a towel and went into the kitchen and started talking to his little Shih Tzu dog. I heard a noise and looked up and saw his wife's son, who was about my age, had let himself into the house and had seen me. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, but I was completely shocked and super grateful I hadn't been up to anything else. I had no idea he had a key or that he would be coming over. Another time during that same house-sitting time frame, I had my not-boyfriend, situationship, over to stay the night. We were woken up by the house cleaners bursting in to clean the place the next morning, but that seemed less invasive somehow. In retrospect, I should have gotten a schedule of all of the dealings at his house, as well as a list of everyone who had a key who might stop by. Story 16. So I work in an operating room. It's pretty looked down upon to fart in a surgery. There are exceptions, so it's pretty common for people to take care of business in the hallway. But regardless, you don't flaunt your flatulence. One day it was a late-ish hour. Not many people wandering the halls. I was scrubbing my hands before a case, and I had a massive fart coming on. To say I let it go is an understatement. I farted for 20 solid seconds and let out an audible, "Ah, yay," after I said that. I turned, and a cute young anesthesia tech was standing there in abject horror. "You!" Story 17. I worked at Chevron. We had a rolling R2-D2 cooler that held drinks. Every day I had to clean it in the back room. Now the drainage hose came out of where if 2 reels had a banana, that is where it would be. You had to pull the hose out and drain the melted ice before you cleaned it. So it was slow. No customers, so I took him in the back and was pulling out the hose. In order to entertain myself, I would say lewd things as I was pulling out the hose and draining him. I was saying, "Oh, 2 reels, it's so big. Do you like when I pull on it like this?" I had not noticed a customer had come in, and he was in the doorway and said, "I don't mean to interrupt, but I need some help out here." I turned bright red and just said, "I am so sorry, I was just trying to have some fun." Story 18. Back in college, I was helping with the college radio station. It was an online radio station and no one really listened to it, and so very few people were often involved. I'm sitting in the studio one day all alone playing music and occasionally announcing the songs. I'm bored, and because I was college-age boy, I decided to look at boobies for a second. So I pulled up a picture of boobies. I looked at them, felt satisfied, and closed the browser, then continued doing radio stuff. A minute later, I turned to do something and noticed a father and son in the adjacent room, like where a producer would be, getting a campus tour. The campus tour guide has placed himself between them and me, and the father and son are kind of smirking. Nothing ever came of it, thankfully, and I'm guessing the tour guide learned a lesson about announcing himself to people in the studio, and I learned a lesson about appropriate time and place and looking over one's shoulder. Story 19. This was about a decade and a half ago. I was staying at a friend's place out of state for about a week. She and her mother both had day jobs, but I would entertain myself pretty easily during the day, usually doing chores so that they didn't have to. They were in the middle of moving, which I knew. One day, my friend's mother forgot to tell either of us that she had made an appointment with an agent to show the house to the family while they were out. I think she thought my friend had the day off and was going to be with me, but no. So around 2:30 in the afternoon, I was wearing my comfy dinosaur PJs and blasting Adele, singing along, horribly loud and off-key, while dusting my friend's room when the door swings open and I'm met with a stunned real estate agent and a business casual couple. Startled, but immediately understanding who they were, I blurted, "Crap, sorry, I don't live here." That was followed by an extremely awkward few minutes where I had to explain what I meant before they called the police El Mao. Story 20. When my sister was sick and both my parents worked, I would get home from school and be alone until about 10 minutes before bedtime, when a parent would come home and check on me before going back to the hospital to sleep. I was in middle school, so every day I'd come home and get off and watch adult TV I wasn't allowed to watch until I made myself dinner. One day my parents had a family friend doing construction on the house, but no one told me. My bathroom window went out onto a roof for a room below. I looked up from a furious jacking and saw him bent over staring at me through the window. We made eye contact for what felt like a whole minute as I covered myself. I eventually made a weird smile and waved him off like, "I'm a teen boy. TF do you expect of me?" And he gave me a little head shake like, "Shame on you," and went back to work. No idea how long he watched me, but it could have been several minutes. I never told anyone. Story 21. I got off of work a little early, so I came home and had a little alone time. I decided to put in my earbuds and go to my Audio Erotica app and have a little me time. I had plans with my best friend later that night, nowhere near the time I was enjoying myself, but she decided to come over early. She has a key and let herself in and sat on the couch in the living room, which my bedroom door is connected to. Well, since I thought I was alone, I was loud. I held nothing back, and she heard all of it. We've never talked about it, never acknowledged it. We both know it happened, but we act like it didn't. Story 22. I work in retail and I'm in the click and collect area. People come to pick up shopping they've ordered. The person in there, me, has their own little room out the way. When it's really quiet, there's these big double doors that you can hide behind. I get weird in there when I'm by myself. They only ever have one person in there. I have conversations with myself. I hum and sing stupid songs, funky dances. Well, I'm on a roll. Semi-busy, in, out, in, out. I can't remember what I was talking to myself about, but I know I was having a grumble. Well, I'm fully into it, doing gestures, a little bit of swearing. I go into the chiller to gather an order and exit the chiller to see my colleague friend stood behind the door, drinking from her bottle she stores on the shelf, says it gives her an excuse to be allowed to come visit, with a look of concern, amusement, and WTF. She stayed quiet when I walked in and I just didn't turn around. The 180 I did when I realized she was there. Story 23. Not so much alone. My old job, retail, we had a stock take once a year. An external auditor would come in to oversee it and provide the scanners, etc. My team would do all the scanning. This would start at 6 a.m. I arrived on the day about 5:45. The lights were already on, so obviously my colleagues had arrived first and would be in the back office. When you walk into the back office, the kitchen was in front of you, but offset slightly so you can't see fully into it, and the office area itself immediately to the right, behind, sort of as you walk in. I walked in, turned to the right to see 3 of my colleagues stood there, so greeted them with a loud and jovial, "Good morning, Mother Duckers," to which one of them sheepishly replied to by pointing over my shoulder and telling me the auditor was behind me. She'd been stood in the blind spot in the kitchen and had, unbeknownst to me, also arrived early. Was quite an awkward, "Oh, hello. I'm the store manager," after that. Story 24. Not really alone, but it was the day before Thanksgiving, and I only had one baby in our infant room, and I was jumping around singing and dancing for her. She was in a saucer, laughing and clapping as I'm jumping around singing, "We're not going to take it," into a shaker toy. I'm giving a full-fledged concert here, and at the end of the song, just a note, I did skip over the "you're all worthless and weak" part and went straight to "drop and give me 20. I did a jump turn and saw her father and grandfather standing there. I just calmly straightened my shirt and casually asked how long they were standing there. The grandfather said, "Oh, about the time you said don't pick our destiny." Then they burst out in applause. This family stayed at our daycare until their 3rd and final child turned 5, and the grandfather always teased me about my little concert right up until their final day. Story 25. This summer, I traveled to Amsterdam by myself for the Taylor Swift concert. Before the show, when I was getting ready, I got out of the shower and started having a dance party by myself on the bed, naked performing my own Eras tour. And all of a sudden, the door to my hotel room started to open. I froze and took me a second to get to the door. And they most definitely saw me doing this before I was able to slam the door. I got a towel and reopened the door, and it was an older Muslim couple. The woman was in a full burqa, and I've never seen someone's face turn so red. I was obviously mortified and in shock, so I don't fully remember my small interaction with them. But turns out the hotel double-booked the room and gave them a key after I had checked in. Story 26. I was at work, and my colleagues were on lunch breaks. No clients, or so I thought. I was so tired and hungover. Big mistake, but hey, I was young. I decided to record a voice message for my friend. I whispered into the phone, "I'm never drinking again. If I don't get aspirin in the next 15 minutes, I'm just going to become a rug, and I won't mind people stepping over me." Suddenly, a man emerged from thin air, and he was laughing to himself. He said he could get me some aspirin, and I was so embarrassed. I was apologizing like I just beat someone up. I was apologizing like my life depended on it. I told him it was okay. I'll go on a break, and I thanked him. We had some small talk, and he really didn't mind me talking about that. Thank God. Story 27. In high school around midnight, I was in the bathroom and thought I shut the door. I hadn't. I was standing in front of the mirror, flexing my brains out, and I turn around and my stepdad was standing there with a huge grin on his face. Story 28. My BFF and I would walk up a local mountain once a year, and on the way, we would goof around and sing in our opera singer voices. Not a good day to meet our scary chemistry teacher on the trail. I still can see that single raised eyebrow 50 years later. Story 29. Not super embarrassing, and definitely not the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened in my life, but in the moment, it felt like it was life-ruining. I went to undergrad in Mexico City and was still working on the language when I went to the dorm showers. I started singing a song that I liked in Spanish, but it was really bad, and then a guy's voice kind of came over my voice and started singing it more correctly than I could. At first, I thought it was kind of funny and cute, but then when we both exited the shower, I realized that it was a guy I had a huge crush on. And so I just ran in my towel back to my dorm, which was across a courtyard and up 3 floors of stairs. We ended up dating for 3 years, so it wasn't as bad as it felt in the moment. Story 30. When I was 8, maybe, I was at Walmart late at night and saw one of those cars that toddlers can drive around the yard on. I tried to squeeze my fat ass into it, but couldn't. A worker who I didn't see up on a ladder yelled out, "You ain't gonna fit, man." I was mortified, walking away, embarrassed. Story 31. Got home, the place was silent. Roommate is out, nice. It was around 10 p.m. I get going being noisy, la 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 la. Go to the bedroom, turn on the light. "Could you keep it down, please?" They were home. I almost had a heart attack. Story 32. I went over to my friend's house to cook and hang out together. He promised me that we were alone because his mother and brother were out, and his dad rarely comes back home because of family things. You know? Anyways, we started putting on music and singing our hearts out. Because what else are you supposed to do when you're alone? We both like Heathers. So I put on Dead Girl Walking. I went to go set up the table for the 2 of us, and on the lyrics, "Spend these next 30 hours getting freaky." Lo and behold, I turn around to see nobody but his dad, standing there staring at me abashedly. Bearing in mind this is the first time we had met, I froze before rushing to turn off the music and greeted him while trying to gaslight myself that the last 40 seconds had not happened. Story 33. Had to pee real bad at the bus stop in 7th grade. Midstream, the bus shows up, and in a panic, I turn around and piss on my pants in full view of the bus. 7th grade was probably the worst possible time in my life for this to have happened. Story 34. I live alone. Have for a long time. Because I live alone, and despite the gods, I'll fart really loud, push it out, and I'll think, take this world. Just have done this because I'm lonely. Wish I wasn't single. So it's just a dumb thing I do. Well, I went out with my friend, who's super hot. We do this occasionally, and sleep together. I have a great time with him. Well, I guess in my deep sleep, I thought I was alone and pushed out a take this world. And well, I wasn't alone. Sigh. I'm a very polite person, so this was very out of character. To him. Well, I woke up and he was in a different bed. Dummy said, "Why are you way over there?" It all came back to me later. Neither of us have ever said a word about it since. I secretly die laughing. Story 35. I think this is close enough to count. Back in 9th grade, I was so horribly sleep deprived. I once started falling asleep with my eyes open and dreaming during class while the teacher was giving a lecture. I never fall asleep with my eyes open, so that was bad. Anyway, during another class, a teacher was again giving a lecture. I started daydreaming and somehow forgot where I was. I'm sure being sleep deprived didn't help. So while I was daydreaming, I felt a fart coming on and decided to let it rip. The daydreaming made me think I was somewhere else alone. Soon as I did, I suddenly remembered I was in class. The teacher paused during his lecture and looked my direction. I don't know if he knew it was me, but my face started turning red, which may have given me away. Story 36. Thought I was home alone a few years back. I just finished a long shower and walked out of the master bathroom into my bedroom, completely nude and using my towel to dry my hair. I had apparently missed the text from my husband that the realtor set up a last-minute showing of our house, and I walked right out into the showing. It was a nice couple that I think was as embarrassed as I was. The realtor called me later and said he would make sure to contact us both before the next one. Story 37. Had to go to a bathroom at a restaurant. I'm weird about going number 2 in bathrooms unless I'm at home or somewhere I know. I let out a long one and say, "Hallelujah, finally, damn that was long, didn't know someone was peeing," and they said, "Damn man, that was a long one. I hope you let the rest out smooth." Now I always double check before my gut stormed the gate. Story 38. I was in the supply closet once getting the mop bucket at close. Realized my zipper was coming down and looked like hot mess from my shirt out and my pants twisted. So basically undid my belt, pulled my pants down a bit to retuck and straighten up. One of my women coworkers came in behind me as the door wasn't 100% closed. She went, "You never asked me out." I turned around and my pants fell all the way down. She then replied, "Wow, you look well there." Pulled my pants up and everything, then just said I was fixing my pants and shirt. She constantly gave me a smile at work from then on, but nothing came of it, and her boyfriend at the time was an ass. Story 39. One day I arrived at the office very early. It was very dark. No one seemed to be around. My department is located down the corridor, so I decided to sing along and do a bit of headbanging to Finnish industrial metal band Termion Ketilo's track Hades while walking down there. And then I noticed the general manager with his morning coffee. I am an overweight, usually grumpy, 34-year-old woman. We're not in Finland, and as far as I know, general manager doesn't speak Finnish. But if he does, it won't make the situation any better, if you know what I mean. But it could also be worse because I also have a track called Min Vän Chlamydia from a Swedish band Skitarg on my playlist. Story 40. My 17-year-old cat was very sick, so I took a couple of days off from work to take care of her. I was so fortunate to work with animal lovers that no one thought twice about it. My boss did tell me she would stop by in case I needed anything. The windows are open. It's a beautiful day. I was belting out, "Sweet cat of mine," sung to the tune of Sweet Child of Mine. She just stood there at the window, grinning. With the cookies she had made and was bringing over the rest of the time we worked together, she would belt out, "Wah, woo," when she saw me. Story 41. I was at a Barnes & Noble once with my ex. From where I was standing, I could see him on one side of a bookshelf with some seating and a man reading on the other side. My ex curled his back to look like a macaroni, ripped his ass in half, looking at me. He sees me looking at the man on the other side of the bookshelf as I'm starting to giggle. The look on his face, I wish so badly I could describe it. Not quite terror, but you could tell realization was setting in. He says, "Let's get the duck out of here." And I cried laughing the entire way out. Howlin'. Story 42. I'm on a private island with my GF and her mom, dad, for my birthday. I walked to the far end of the island earlier to have a drink and admire the view plus 6 kilali. Finished my stuff, took some photos, and decided to head back. Took a piss and farted while pissing. My GF's father was standing right behind me. He'd gone on a hike by the other side of the island. I turned 40 today. It was extremely awkward. But he's a gentleman, didn't say a word, didn't joke about it at supper or anything. I'm having a glass of Jameson right now and I'm still dying inside. Story 43. I was at a Barnes & Noble once with my ex. From where I was standing, I could see him on one side of a bookshelf, with some seating and a man reading on the other side. My ex curled his back to look like a macaroni, ripped his ass in half, looking at me. He sees me looking at the man on the other side of the bookshelf as I'm starting to giggle. The look on his face, I wish so badly I could describe it. Not quite terror, but you could tell realization was setting in. He says, "Let's get the duck out of here." And I cried, laughing the entire way out, howlin'. Story 44. So, I was in my room, jamming out to my favorite song, completely lost in the moment. I was dancing like nobody was watching, singing at the top of my lungs, doing these ridiculous moves that I thought were super cool. Then, out of nowhere, I turned around and saw my roommate standing in the doorway, clearly having witnessed the whole thing. I froze, and the look on his face was a mix of amusement and horror. I'll never live it down, and now every time I play that song, he has to remind me of my performance. It's one of those moments where you just wish the ground would swallow you whole. Story 45. Oh, another one. I got extremely intoxicated the night of a group trip to the best zoo in the country. Pretty brutal hangover. I'm beyond excited, but any bathroom I pass, I'm deciding I need to stop to upchuck. One of the times, a friend decides to join me. We're in there together and I hear a toot. I say, "Haha, you farted." She responded, "No, I didn't." And then I hear in a sing-song voice, "No, she didn't." Story 46. 15, just came home from school, PT class, band practice. I was worn out physically and mentally. Dad's police car and mom's car wasn't in the driveway, so I was alone. I set down my school backpack, did a long stretch to the ceiling, and almost let out a frustrating "damn" when I looked over to see my father taking a nap on the couch. Something was wrong with his car, and he'd gotten a ride home. Dodged a bullet on that one. Story 47. While working at Little Caesars in college, I thought I'd flip around on the table like a fish. I don't know why, but I was in the line of sight of the register and also working register. So I flopped, then looked up to see two people staring at me. I then had to go take their order. It was extremely ducking awkward. Story 48. Singing Bodies by Drowning Pool at work while cleaning. Then I turned around and saw a customer. I swear she must have levitated into the shop because she didn't make a noise coming in. Story 49. I know it's not quite as embarrassing as the rest of these stories, but I was probably in 8th or 9th grade, home alone using the family computer. I was listening to music and singing along. Meatloaf's Paradise by the Dashboard Light came on, and I was just belting out the words. Turns out my stepdad had come home from work and was in the living room just having a good laugh at my expense as I was fully committed to this song. Usually the dogs bark when the garage door opens, but those little craps were silent that day. Story 50. Early 90s. I come home from school, feeling invincible after a solid day, and decide it's time to channel my inner Power Ranger. Theme song starts blaring from the TV, and suddenly I'm a ninja warrior. I'm jumping on the couch, karate chopping the air like it owes me money, and belting out the lyrics like I'm auditioning for the team. I finish the routine with an epic spin kick, and then I spot her, my mom's friend standing in the doorway, stifling laughter. She'd apparently stopped by to check in on me. She sure got her money's worth. Story 51. Working on a Saturday, I thought I was completely alone in the building, so the radio was on loud, and I was singing and dancing. A sexy song came on, so I was wriggling and writhing like a pussycat doll. If they were 25 years older and 60 pounds heavier, I was giving it the full stripper moves, complete with to the floor escort drop when the whistling and applause started. The electricians on the warehouse roof seen it all. I had no idea the boss had let them in. I ran away and never ever worked a Saturday again. Story 52. I scratched my ass in a conference room when I thought nobody could see me. Turns out there was a camera in a corner of the ceiling I wasn't aware of. And it was a humid day, and my overbriefs were digging hard. I was working for a law firm, and my boss got a huge kick out of that. At least 4 or 5 people watched me on that camera. Story 53. English is not my native language, but when I talk to myself for some reason, I tend to do it in English. And I was just making a cup of coffee early in the morning, thinking both my parents have gone off for work. As per usual, I was narrating my thoughts in English while making the coffee, throwing on some really unfunny puns and singing random songs that came into my head. And my mom came in the kitchen, first thing in the morning saying, "Who the duck are you talking to?" Story 54. Ugh. This is rough to admit. My parents were taking my older sister on tours of colleges. My older brother was away at college. My elderly grandma, who couldn't climb stairs, was watching 15-year-old me. The family computer was on the 2nd floor. I went full on into it, completely naked, showing the Pope's hat who's boss. Like all the pent-up sexual aggression, a 15-year-old who just got access to the internet could. Fully making love to Jill. My brother had come home to surprise me. Story 55. I tried kissing Leonardo DiCaprio on the TV screen when I was younger. Didn't realize my brother had walked down the stairs. Wasn't that embarrassed? Because it's Leo. Story 56. College boyfriend came to my parents' home for a weekend. I went to take a shower, undressed, and used a towel I had left on the floor the previous day. in which a large wolf spider had taken up residence. I walked up to the mirror wrapped in the towel, only to see that ginormous spider crawling right up my neck. I screamed like a banshee, dropped the towel, and ran out of the bathroom as naked as the day I was born. Of course, both my parents and boyfriend came running to help. Story 57, probably when I was a teenager. I was sitting in my room, headphones on. Family was gone to the store, and I, with the constant dream of being in musical theater, was belting out to a really sad song as hard as I could, eyes closed and everything. Opened my eyes to see my older sister standing over me, staring at me with wide eyes and this look of horror. I don't remember what she said, but I remember when she left the room, I cried. I never sang around her again. Story 58. I was 13 and extremely mentally ill, standing in front of my kitchen window that looked out into the parking lot. I had an intrusive thought to stick a butter knife up my nose and through my nostril, youch. And when I was about to yank that sucker through my nose, I looked up and saw an old dude in the parking lot cracking up in his truck. And in embarrassment, slowly lowered myself to the ground and rolled out of the kitchen. I'm actually pretty glad he was there in the end. Story 59. I went to a family member's graveside service in the winter, wearing new tights under my dress. These tights did the horrible roll-down thing where they were now bunched up around my hips. Very uncomfortable, and I'm sure looked weird too. On the way to the restaurant after the service, I hid in between my car and an empty parked car to flip my skirt up, pull the tights below my underwear, pull them back up again to a more comfortable fit. The car behind me was not, in fact, empty. Story 60. I was hanging out at home, was pretty tipsy, and started talking to myself like I do, hashing out imaginary arguments where I win and all that, only to settle down on the couch and find my husband there. I did not notice him getting home from work, coming inside, or sitting down or anything. As far as I could tell, he just appeared there next to me. He said he doesn't recall what I was saying, but I haven't touched that brand of ready-made margarita since. Story 61. Slow work day when a song came on the speakers. Forgot which song, but hella catchy. One coworker was singing along, hamming it up a little. The other coworker was doing the backup vocals and used a stapler as a microphone. I grabbed highlighters and waved them around like glow sticks at a concert. We didn't notice the clients who came in until midway through song, or that our boss had installed video cameras the week before and was testing them out. Somehow we did not get in trouble. Story 62. I was getting off on a call in my hotel room alone. Suddenly my parents barged in and saw me with this other person online while I was getting off. I thought they were out for dinner. Story 63. I was under the impression the car which window I used to do my makeup right before work was empty. I did like the full routine, quick version, since I was running late. At 80%, the window opened, like 3 minutes in, and there was my boss laughing at me. Story 64. Working the closing shift at a smoke shop, I was mopping the floor and rapping a made-up as a went song about doing mundane tasks, and didn't realize some last-minute customers who came in heard me as I had one pod in my ear. They heard a nice 16 bars from me before making their presence known. I jumped so high as realizing they were there. Story 65. I was sitting in my office, which I shared with another coworker, and forgot he was there. I had headphones on, listening to Lady Marmalade, and when it got to Mocha Chocolata, belted it out at the top of my lungs, which startled my coworker, who had also forgotten I was there, which then startled me. I started laughing my ass off, and my chair skittered out from under me, landing me on the ass I just laughed off. Story 66. Had a pastor that went in the chapel for 6 a.m. prayer. As he was turning on the lights, he let one rip big time, turned around and seen one of the regular ladies sitting there. Story 67. In college, I accidentally left the bathroom door linking my room to the next one open after a shower. I was naked, and my suite mate opened her door to the bathroom. I bent over quickly to cover up, but I hit my face on the bookshelf under my lofted bed on the way down. I thought I broke my nose for a minute. Story 68. This isn't me, but it's something I witnessed. Me and my friend were late to class, so we were the only ones walking in the hallway. Then we saw a teacher dancing, or something else goofy, I low-key forgot, in the corner of the other hallway. And me and my friend started laughing, and the teacher goes, OMG, I forgot there was another hallway. I'm so sorry you didn't see me. Story 69. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a pop star and would write and sing my own songs. I was walking my dog around the block and figured no one was around, belting out my favorite new lyrics, which were, I'm addicted, I'm a victim, I'm haunted by you, and realized my neighbor, super old guy, was sitting on the porch. We made eye contact, and I basically ran home with my dog. Mortifying. Story 70? I was in the drive-thru at Dutch Bros, and I had my head on the steering wheel, talking to my niece in the back BC. She was getting on my nerves. So I was like shaking my head against the wheel, and when I turned, the barista was looking at me like I was crazy and asked if I was okay. Like 4 times I got tints on my windows after that. Story 71? Because of the specifics of my work, such cases often happen to me. But there was one time when I was playing with my pussy in the McDonald's toilet. A guy slipped a phone underneath and filmed for a long time until I noticed after finishing. I wanted to swear, but he noticed and quickly ran out. I don't even know who it was or what he looked like. Story 72. It was a fairly late winter evening, and I was line dancing, poorly, at the bus stop to keep warm. I reached the end of one repetition and turned around for the next one, and there was someone with their phone out. They went, "Hey, do you know what YouTube is?" and laughed at me. I never did find my shameful lack of rhythm on YouTube, but I did always wonder. Story 73. Talking crap about my dorm mate in the laundry room with a neighbor and turning around to see her standing there in the doorway. That last semester sucked. Story 74. Had the stereo up, full blasting Aretha's Natural Woman. Had the vocals going, my dancing was on point. Friend who had walked in and apparently watched for a while said it was one of the best things he had ever seen. I'm a very white male, about 35 at the time. Story 75. When I am alone with my dog, I will sing things at her like, "Peanut, are you hungry?" or "Now we go inside." But only when alone and I was on the porch and sang something to her, turned to my left and the postman was there. Usually they wear headphones, but not this guy. So embarrassed. Story 76. I was in my room, jamming out to my favorite song, dancing like nobody was watching until I turned around and found my neighbor standing in the doorway, clearly enjoying the show. I thought I was alone and completely forgot I had my window open. We both laughed it off, but I was mortified. Now I always check my surroundings before my solo dance parties. Story 77. Years ago at a house party, I slipped off to one of the bedrooms with a girl. We both got down to some action on top of the bed in there. We finished, straightened ourselves up, and as we stood up to leave the room, the duvet shook and somebody popped their head out the top. Who knows what they saw or heard? Story 78. I don't always think. I'd stubbed my toe, and the nail split at the edge. Rather than go find clippers, I decided to nibble it off. I know, gross. But my feet were super clean, and again, not thinking. My husband walked in to see me pretzeled up on the couch, toe in mouth. I was ducking mortified. Story 79. Walking to work in the pitch black at 5 a.m. during a UK winter in the semi-countryside, listening to Glassjaw through headphones at full volume and singing along in a very Daryl Palumbo style. Suddenly, get overtaken by a group of early morning runners. The craps. Of course, I couldn't hear if they said anything, but I have to assume they were taking the piss. Story 80. Not me, but my aunt told me about a week ago she was at work and had just clocked out for lunch. And she went to the bathroom, and when she walked in, she says, "Pew!" because she thought it was empty, and it smelled like crap. She then realized there was someone in one of the stalls crapting. Story 81. I was home from high school for some reason. My room was in the basement, and I blasted Bring Me the Horizon's Pray for Plagues, a little headbanging in my computer chair later, and my stepdad came downstairs and asked if I was okay. Story 82. Once, I was singing my heart out in the shower, completely lost in the moment. When I realized my roommate had come home and was listening from the other side of the door, I had to quickly turn off the water and pretend like I was just washing my hands. Talk about a cringe moment. Story 83. While I was heading up on one of those spiral stairs in apartments, my friends dared me via Messenger to sing Symphony as high and as loud as I possibly can. And stupidly, I did. Then some guy got outside of a room there and questionable asked me what the hell I was doing at 6 a.m. in the morning. Story 84. We had a plumber coming over to the house, and in the moment he rang the doorbell, I was up to my eyes in a few frustrating jobs. I walked down the stairs huffing, "I can't be dealing with this banana head right now," to find him half standing in our hallway. I'd left the front door ajar. Incredibly awkward. Story 85. Went to bed at my parents' house. Just me and my dog there. Woke up and started singing a good morning song to my dog. Opened the door, and my aunt was working at the dining room table 6 feet away. She asked me where her good morning song was. I did not sing to her, too. Story 86. I was in high school. It was nighttime, and I went outside. Felt like singing, so I did. Someone clapped. I was home alone, from down the street. Felt super embarrassing at the time. Story 87. This actually just happened on my way to work an hour ago. I was walking down an alley and had to reposition my baby maker, and I had to fiddle with it a while before it was comfortable. Then I walked past a car, and there was just a dude sitting in it with the window down. Story 88. Around 14 years old. In the bathtub, first time ever getting off. With soap. It did feel good. My sister walked in just as the cum squirted out. She screams, "What are you doing?" I died 1,000 deaths. She tattled on me, got the talking to, and took about 3 months to get over it. Story 89. A girl I know once needed to fart at work, but the toilet was too far and offices are aircon, no windows, etc. So she opens the door to a meeting room, farts loudly and long. Notices there are 2 guys at the other end of the meeting room, closes the door, and runs off. Story 90. I was 10, 11, and very into the Hunger Games at the time. Was mucking around after school, pretending to be in the middle of a fight. After falling to the ground all dramatically after being stabbed, I turned around to get up and saw a classroom full of older kids staring at me through their window. Story 91. I decided to ride a tiny ass bike tricycle-looking bike found off a quiet hill. I ramped up speed and launched, crashed and rolled, and to my utter dismay, there was a party at the bottom of people laughing their asses off. Story 92. Recently, my best friend and I were allowed to go and exercise in the school gym, so she took the opportunity and asked me all about my new friend, so I spilled all the tea without realizing his best friend was in the back of the gym, without earbuds in. I was so terrified. Lamau. Story 93. I had just finished my run into the office. It was still early morning and I still had my headphones on. I went to the staff cafeteria, where there was floor space, to do some floor stretches. Finishing my stretches, I get up from the floor to find my boss standing over me, coffee in hand. Story 94. Badly belted a Whitney Houston song at a stairwell at work. Did not know there was someone also in the stairwell, a couple floors down. In the middle of my botched high note, I hear, "Oh, no," and then them exiting through a door. Story 95. Thought everyone was still out for the night, but my mom came home early. I started doing myself good and she came into the room to ask a question. Quickly tried to play it cool and try to act tired, but it was super awkward for a minute. Story 96. I remember I was playing some game on my Xbox and I died in the game in the dumbest way possible and flipped off the TV, very dramatic, I'll say, and my sister was right behind me. I was only 10 years old and not supposed to curse. Story 97. I came home one day when I was like 11 and immediately stripped. It was very hot to take a shower. Went to put my clothes in the laundry basket, which meant crossing the living room. My mom was home. I started saying hello whenever I entered home. Still do. Story 98. Got caught beating off by my older brother. I gitted my pants up quick AF and dashed to the back bedroom fast as I could. He came back there and asked what was going on. Best lie I could come up with was I thought someone was breaking in. Story 99. It's a two-person one. I thought I was alone at home and went to get some hair clippers from my parents' bathroom. I opened the door and caught my stepmother in bed with her old 90s-style handheld massager. We never spoke of it. Story 100. I just started listening to the 2021 Cabaret Broadway cast recording and was cleaning a business kitchen on shift and got caught trying to unbutcher my German pronunciation during my encore performance of Willkommen. For clarity, I can't sing Gave It a Red Hot Go, though. Story 101. Not me, but when I was in high school, I walked in on a junior practicing his Kamehameha in the toilet block. He thought he was alone, but I saw him, and he saw me see him. Story 102. When I was a little kid in school, I once picked my nose and ate it, and then looked right at the security camera I hadn't noticed. I avoided eye contact with the security guards until I left that school. Story 103. My ex and I were going at it in high school, thinking we were alone since his mom left for something. But after he left the room, he got applause from the living room, and some random friend of his mom's was sitting on the couch. Story 104. Well, for one, I'm a man who enjoys looking and feeling like a woman, so but my folks weren't going to. I'm back for another day, and they got back a day early, and I was ISO-GA sex toy on myself. Oops. Story 105. When my dog walker walked in on my bent over my coffee table trying to take a picture of my butthole with my phone, asterisk, I thought I ripped it when I slipped and scissored the tub trying to get in. That sucked. Story 106. The time I was singing along to my favorite song in my room, totally belting it out. When I turned around to find my neighbor just standing there, looking amused, I thought I was all alone. Cue the red face and awkward laugh. Story 107. I was getting in the mood, thinking I had the place to myself. Suddenly, I heard a cough from the other room. Turns out my roommate came home early and had been awkwardly trying to stay quiet the whole time. Story 108. I thought my kids were elsewhere and decided it was a good time for something educational. How does Gen Z humor work? Nope, 16-yo at the time was there. She gave me asterisk so much asterisk crap over that. Story 109. Had a very noisy wank in the bath. Upon completion, I heard a noise in my front garden, realized the window was open, and that my uncle, who had come to do my garden, had heard everything. Story 110. I ranted about this teacher in high school under my breath like, I hate this mofo. He was one, to be fair. That was not the moment for him to drop into the classroom. Story 111. Singing to myself banana jokes on a long bike ride on a long, lonely road. When I arrive at my destination, I slow down to find another biker tailgating me. Story 112. Unintentionally belting out a song in the car, only to discover that my incredible vocals were being heard by everyone nearby because the windows were down. Story 113. I once started singing my heart out in the shower, thinking I was all alone, only to realize my roommate had come home and was listening from the hallway. Story 114. Not really embarrassing like the others, but whenever I'm dancing and there's somebody else watching me, I get really embarrassed. It has happened before, but not a lot.